Hello everyone, this is Dana here, your neighbor. During these interesting times that we're living, I've been thinking about all of you and trying to find something to share what I've learned in terms of feeling a little bit better today. So here it is. I hope it will help, or it will open some new avenues of looking at things. And please be advised that this is not intended as therapy or medical advice. If those are required, kindly contact your healthcare provider. Thank you, and let's start. What is happening in the outer world? I'm not going to tell you anything that you're not already completely aware of and probably feeling sick of as well. There is a global pandemic. The governments are imposing strict physical distancing rules. All TV and other channels provide endless updates and scary videos and pictures from here, there, everywhere in an attempt to predict what will happen and how long it will last. High-risk groups have been identified, and I belong to them. There are people who do not take this seriously and do not abide by the new rules. There is scarcity of certain items at the stores. The stock market has been up and down in a frenzy, and my savings have plummeted. The economy is completely stopped. What do I have to do as a result? Well, I have to ensure that I implement and abide by the rules of physical distancing. I have to follow all other government directions and recommendations. I have to try and find enjoyable things to do at home because I'm not going anywhere else. I have to keep myself reasonably informed. What if something else happens that I don't know about? I have to stay connected with family and friends. And I have to find the place of trust, kindness, and grace within, God willing. What is happening in my inner world? I'm scared. I'm confused. I'm overwhelmed. I'm sad. I'm lonely. I am disempowered. I highlighted that in a different color for the following reason. Because scared, confused, overwhelmed, sad, lonely are all feelings. I'm going to argue that I am disempowered is actually a perception. Why is that important? It will become apparent further during the presentation. Well, in terms of what is happening in the outer world and what I have to do as a result and what is happening in my inner world, choices and control in those areas, there is the model that most of us have been trained to use when looking at such things. And the model says that what is happening in the outer world determines what I have to do as a result. It also determines what is happening in my inner world. In other words, what's happening out there is forcing me to do certain things, and it's also impacting my feelings, not only about those things, but in general. There is also a connection, of course, between what I have to do and what I'm feeling, because what I have to do will impact the way I feel about things, and the way I feel about things will determine how willingly I do what I have to do. I don't think this comes as a surprise to anybody, but what is happening in the outside world is completely out of my control. This is not new. It didn't come about with the COVID-19 virus. It's always been this way, it is this way, and it will continue being this way. The challenge comes with the fact that in this model, what is happening out there determines both what I have to do and how I feel about it, which in essence leaves me with no choice and locked in place, no pun intended. Kind of illustrates what's happening to us physically speaking, right? Okay, not a pretty picture. We like to have choices. We like to have freedom. Let's explore, and I would like to ask for your patience and collaboration in coming along with me on faith to see if we can find a different perspective, a different way of looking at things. The basis of the model, the main components, remains absolutely the same. You have what is happening in the outer world, you have what I have to do as a result, and also what is happening in my inner world. What is happening in the outside world remains out of my control. As I explained, this is not new, it's always been this way. The connection between the two other items is also there in the same way it's been before. I'm going to introduce the following change. What is happening in the outer world, which is out of my control, determines only some of what I have to do as a result. What do I have to or choose to do as a result? You notice that I've added the choose to in a different color, and we'll see why. I have to ensure that I implement and abide by the rules of physical distancing. We're all in agreement. I have to follow all other government directions and recommendations. However, and this is something that I've added to this list, you haven't seen it before, I don't have to throw a temper tantrum, but I can if I choose to. I don't have to find enjoyable things to do at home, but I can if I choose to. I don't have to keep myself reasonably informed, but I can if I choose to. I don't have to stay connected with family and friends. In fact, some of us may choose not to for a change, but I can if I choose to. I don't have to find the place of trust, kindness, and grace within, but I can if I choose to. Take a look at this list. It consists of 7 items, 5 of which are pure choices. All of a sudden, the area where I seemed to have no choice, I have plenty of choice in. One might even argue that the first 2, color-coded in yellow, are choices as well, provided, of course, that we're willing to put up with the consequences of not doing them, which, of course, law-abiding citizens that we are, we're not going to do. So if we go back to our model with the 3 components, all of a sudden, there is an area where we have some choice, and actually the amount of choice we have there is bigger than the amount that is compulsive or dictated by something else. Let's talk about what is happening in my inner world in this different perspective and see if that changes as well. Remember this, all the feelings and the perception of being disempowered. Again, I want to emphasize the fact that the perception of being disempowered is so important, and I want to discuss it here because we as human beings love to have choices. To us, having choice and control means freedom. And freedom is what we all want. The moment we have the perception that that is taken away, that brings about complete unhappiness and all the consequences thereof. So really, the feelings that I'm listing here are the result of the perception of feeling disempowered, because remember, according to the usual model that most everybody uses to look at the world, what is happening out there over which I have no control determines everything else, and therefore I have no control over anything. I'm disempowered. Changing that perception becomes absolutely key, because that perception determines how I'm feeling. That perception is like a lens through which I'm looking at the world. So, because my perception is that I am disempowered, that I have no choices and no control, I feel scared, confused, overwhelmed, sad, and lonely. It follows then that if we manage somehow to change that perception, we change everything. And that area in my inner world, so important to all of us, becomes an area of complete choice. I know you're going to ask me how we're changing perception, and I'm going to have some suggestions about that. But first, let's see what we have just discussed does to our model a different perspective. What's happening out there, out of our control, what I have to do as a result, quite a bit of control and choice in that area, and complete choice in my inner world, because I have the power and the means to change my perception, which determines how I feel. Okay, so how do I change perception? Key question. Ask yourself good, empowering questions. What does that mean? We constantly have a dialogue with ourselves, whether we are aware of it or not. And in many, many, many cases, that dialogue consists of questions that we ask ourselves. And those questions may be empowering or disempowering. I'll give you an example. A question such as, why does this always happen to me? Assumes that I'm a victim of circumstance. By definition, that is a disempowering question, because the victim has no power. Again, by definition. Compare that question with, how can I change this situation I don't like? That is a more empowering question, because that assumes that I can change certain things about a certain situation. So, I'm giving you a few examples of good, empowering questions under the circumstances. Is there anything at all that is even slightly positive about this? When you come up with those things, make a list. I could give you the examples that I came up with, but I think it's absolutely beneficial, and I'm asking you to kindly come up with your own list, because this will feel empowering in itself. I'm going to give you a fair warning though. When you start asking this particular question, the first answer is going to be a very outraged no, nothing. How can anything be positive about this? I promise you that if you persist, your brain is going to come up with answers. Make a list of them. Is there an opportunity for self-growth in this experience? Make a list of that as well. I'm sure that there are things that now, with the time that you have on your hands, will feel like making progress in life or in self-knowledge. Who do I want to be coming out of this experience? Why am I listing this question here? This is the ultimate empowering question by definition. Why? Because I know very well who I was going into this experience and living through it for a bit. I was all those things. Felt disempowered, I felt scared, confused, overwhelmed, find your own adjectives. But please spend some time defining how you want to feel coming out of this experience. Find a better feeling place and a more empowered place. And you will see that shifting focus in that direction is going to ultimately cause changes in your life. Limit drastically the time you spend watching the news, and this is where I'm going to explain why I underlined the reasonably informed statement. To me, keeping myself reasonably informed is the equivalent of watching 15-20 minutes of news per day. I don't think I'm missing anything, because I've noticed, and I'm sure you have too, that the news is broadcast in a sort of loop that repeats all the time. And science has proven, without question, that focus on something negative for a lengthy period of time generates a cascade of physiological and psychological reactions in the body and in the mind. And therefore, watching the news, you're going to be focusing on an area over which you have no control, but you'll also be feeling depressed and experiencing a headache. I'm only partially joking. It's really what would happen. Identify something you have always wanted to do and never had time for, like declutter your closets, read the book which has been waiting for you on the shelf, learn a new language, learn a new craft, learn to play an instrument, learn how to use Zoom to connect with others, binge on Netflix comedies, why not? And go within. Get reacquainted with beautiful you, and see how much you like yourself these days. Very empowering, that. Sleep to your heart's content. They say that laughter and sleep are the best medicine. And exercise your let go muscle. To talk a little bit more about that, because this is really the main point of this presentation. Most of you may be acquainted with what is called the Serenity Prayer. It goes like this: God, Source, Universe, fill in the blanks. Please grant me the serenity to accept, and I've added and let go of, the things I cannot change, the courage to change those I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay, keeping that prayer up there as a reminder, let's go back to our model, the area totally out of our control, the area where we have some choice, and the area where we have complete choice. Okay? The area over which we have no control is the area to let go of. What do I mean by letting go? I'm going to tell you what I don't mean first. I do not mean ignoring, and I do not mean denial. What I do mean is acknowledging that is happening, acknowledging that I have no control over it, and gently shifting focus to the areas where I do have a choice and I do have control, and where I can apply courage to change some things. And looking at the model this way, let go versus focus on, that gives me the wisdom to make the difference. So far, I talked to you about areas of choice, areas where there is no choice, and now I'm going to tell you something that, on the surface anyway, is going to contradict basically all the points I've made so far. I believe, actually, that we have choice in everything. And you may be wondering at this point what I have been smoking. So here is our model with the let go part and the focus part. And I'm going to beg for your patience and ask for your willingness to play along with me one more time. How can this be that I have choice in everything? Either I have choice or I don't, right? Ask yourself the following key question, and let's sit with it for a moment or two. Who chooses being the operative word, who chooses to let go of something or to focus on it? That's right, I do. So the ultimate choice belongs to me, the choice that will basically enable me to exercise my freedom and feel empowered, and therefore, in a manner of speaking, I have choice in everything. So what now? First of all, I want to thank you again very, very much for being with me for the past 20 minutes. And I'm hoping at this point that if you're not feeling greatly better, you're still open to perhaps looking at things in a different way and working with the model I have offered. If you have any more questions or wish to discuss this further, you can reach me at the email address shown on the slide. And once again, thank you for the honor and be well.